Jack Boland has literally changed the lives of thousands of people, and he can help you change yours. The following lessons are designed to give you the information and inspiration you need to make your life what it can be. This program is entitled The Science of Goal Achieving. And now, Jack Boland.
This is the first in a series of lessons about goals. All about goals. In these lessons, you may learn all that you will ever need to know about goals. And in the experience that we will be sharing here, beginning in this class and in the series of lessons that follow, you will not only learn about how to set goals, but you will actually achieve. You will actually begin the process of demonstrating some of the goals that you set, things that you have not yet believed possible for you, you will already be well into before we end the series. And that will just be the beginning of this exciting new season of unfoldment in your life. But before we get into the class, I would like to pause for a moment and give credit to 3 books and their authors, books that will be used not as basic textbooks for this class, but as reference material. And the first book is All About Goals and How to Achieve Them by Jack Ensign Addington, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and both of these books are published by Wilshire Book Company in North Hollywood, California. And the third book is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and it too is published by the Wilshire Book Company. In The Prophet, Gibran wrote, "Then a priestess said, 'Speak to us of prayer.' And the prophet answered, 'For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether?' Prayer is not you going into the silence of your being and beseeching God or the creative intelligence to do something for you that has not previously been done. It's not the process of you getting the universe to change its mind about you. Prayer is that process of thinking and feeling wherein that you take charge consciously, deliberately, easily, naturally of your mind, rising up out of the limited concepts and emotional responses to your life as you now understand it, rising up into a fourth dimension of timelessness and spacelessness. And in that experience you can feel yourself expanding and becoming one with everything. Now that is an activity of your spirit, the invisible part of you. But that prayer is not yet fulfilled. It has not fully happened unless and until there is an action like unto it in the outer part of your world, your life. It too must expand and take the form and shape of this expanded consciousness. You and I must always be in movement. Never will we find a moment in this universe that we can rest except briefly. We can pause here and there along the way, and that too is a part of the principle of the octave and of our action. But after a season of rest, we must stop and then go into action again so that our lives, our outer visible experience becomes living proof, living testimony of the state of our consciousness. We are always revealing ourselves. It seems to me that I have rested too long, and I'm ready to go into action again with my life. My life is so good that I can hardly stand it. But it is not good enough. Things have occurred to me in recent years that were beyond my wildest imaginings in a former time. But yet not enough has occurred, because there are things that I should be doing that I have not yet done, and I don't yet know what they all are, but I know that this is true, that I have to be about this business of getting on with my business. I cannot settle down. Can you? Of course you can't. That will grieve your spirit. Your life is not good enough for you, or you would not be here. You are reaching beyond yourself, beyond the experiences that you have demonstrated. And I'm glad that you have come, because together we can accomplish things that neither of us nor any of us could possibly achieve alone. Together we can envision things for ourselves and for each other that we could not believe or conceive alone. And here in this class we are going to dream some dreams and believe them. We're going to expand our consciousness to believe beyond our believing, and then we're going out into our individual lives and prove that what we have believed is true. In the introduction to his book, All About Goals, Jack Addington wrote, "This book could be the most important book you will ever read. Why? Because life is a series of goals, and there are various techniques for setting and achieving goals. There are natural laws that need to be known and applied if we would consistently realize our goals. Every person is a goal setter, whether or not he or she realizes it. Most of us are working in the dark, and we wonder why some goals are achieved and others are not. And in this series of lessons, I'm going to try to bring us all into the experience of intelligently and wisely setting goals that are legitimate and realistic and attainable. And I can assure you that there is nothing in life more rewarding and more freeing to your spirit than demonstrating goals. Now, some of the goals that we will set will be major objectives, and some will be minor objectives, but each one will be an important part in making up a new pattern that you are going to develop for your life. Some will be day-to-day goals, and some will be hour-to-hour goals, and some will be goals that will take place inside yourself in your own consciousness, and some will be goals that will have to do with things. Goal setting and goal achieving is as natural as breathing if you know how to do it. And as a matter of fact, your heart cannot really rejoice until you are caught up in this process, because you are a natural goal setting and achieving mechanism. You really are. Most people unwittingly set negative goals, and then they wonder why their lives are filled with negative experiences. And therefore it becomes important to learn the pitfalls of goal setting. There are some people who set goals and miss the mark each time. And in this class we will learn why this happens. We will see that they're out of tune with life, and they have the wrong attitude about goals, that they have set goals purposely beyond their reach. Did you know that that's possible? Oh, yes. If one is not careful, you will set a goal that you cannot reach and then smile and say, I tried, I really tried. Now, I don't have to try anymore. Isn't that nice? No. We're going to break us out of our comfort zones and into new and exciting and rewarding experiences, because our spirit, our mind must become acclimated to always be in this process of moving forward. Setting goals is one of the most important achievements that you can ever possibly experience because you were created to be goal-oriented. Your mind works that way. And your mind literally, actually needs you to set goals consciously and deliberately. The silent inner processes of your mind have been waiting patiently all these years for you to learn about goal setting and how to not only set the goals, but get the right feeling about your goals so that it can then begin to effortlessly produce the goals that you have set for it. And tonight, in this first class, I'm going to begin the process of establishing in each of our minds the importance of goal setting and to attempt to show us, each one, how the mind works to achieve those goals. You see, one of our hidden fears about goal setting is that we're afraid that if we set a goal, that then we're going to have to go and do it. True? Well, it doesn't work that way. Goal achieving is much easier than not achieving goals. Remaining static is difficult. Not having enough in life is the hard way to go. Being poor is a problem that really boggles the mind. That's the hard way. The easy way is to learn about goals and set attainable goals and achieve them and then move forward to even more exciting experiences. And this is true because you are built that way. And I'm saying this to you again and again because I want you to hear it. Your mind is created this way. It works this way. It always works this way. If you don't set goals, then that's your goal. Your goal is that I don't set goals because I don't like to change. And so your mind hears you do this and says, okay, you don't like to change. Let's settle down right here. And here's conflict because your spirit is always seeking to move, but you have settled for nothing. And that really hurts. In time, your experiences will attempt to force you forward. And if that is where you are at this moment, if you're ready to begin to move into a dynamic series of exciting changes, then I can assure you that this will happen to you. Webster defined success as the satisfactory accomplishment of a goal sought for. And all real success is the result of a creative striving for a goal that is important to you as a result of your own deep felt needs. The goals that I set for myself will not suffice you. It is only when you begin to look into your own mind and cause it to begin to speak to you, to reveal to you those goals that are next in line of importance, and they are there, and that which you need to demonstrate is a known quantity within your own being. And when you establish those goals, there is a sudden peace that will come over you, a feeling of joyous relaxation, and it's like getting ready to take a trip that you have been looking forward to for a long time. Do you know how it was last year when you were just ready to take off on that vacation that was so important that you had saved for so long, the excitement that was there? That's the way it is. You take that deep breath and smile and say, here we go. Something is going to happen, because it will. Paul J. Meyer of Success Motivation Institute, in his Dynamics of Goal Setting, that's a program that's designed to give direction to your dreams. Paul tells the story of a 15-year-old youth named John Goddard. One day when John was about 15 years of age, he was standing in his mother's kitchen and he heard some older people. To him, older people were 25 or 26 or 27, talking about what they would do if they were young again, if they had their lives to live over. How many times have we bravely stood there saying, oh, if I only had my life to live over, this is what I would do. And John thought, well, gosh, I'm 15 years old. Maybe I had better set some goals for myself so that when I become their age, I won't say when I was 15 years old like John. And so he set 127 goals or items that became a blueprint for his life. Some of his earlier accomplishments were relatively easy. For example, he became an Eagle Scout. He learned to type 50 words a minute, and he studied jiu-jitsu. Now, as time passed, some of John Goddard's goals became more difficult. For example, one of them was to milk a rattlesnake. Another was to read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, and he did it before he was 20. And to make a parachute jump. And then he had some other goals that to the average person might seem utterly impossible: to climb Mount Everest, to visit every country in the world, to go to the moon. You think it was unrealistic? Well, when John Goddard was 47 years of age, he had accomplished 103 items on his original list of 127, and that's a pretty good average. And he said, I'm not through yet. Now, can you imagine all of the other goals that he achieved as the result of working on those goals? Just imagine the exciting life that John Goddard had as the result of overhearing a conversation among older people when he was 15 years of age. Well, making the list was the secret of John Goddard's success. And in this next week, I'm going to ask you to make that same list, but more about that in a moment. Paul Meyer defined success as the progressive realization of worthwhile, predetermined personal goals. The progressive realization of worthwhile, predetermined personal goals. And he said that success does not come by accident. You can't buy it. You can't inherit it, or even marry into it. No, success is the progressive realization of worthwhile, predetermined personal goals. Now, what is a worthwhile goal? Let me pause for a moment. It occurs to me. I know people who have set goals that have no real value, and that even if they achieve them, do not move them forward into the fulfillment of their lives. And they expend a tremendous amount of energy moving off in directions that are not consistent with the movement that their heart desires. Perhaps you've set goals like that in your own life. Unrealistic goals. Well, more about that in just a few moments. Goals must be practical. For example, many people are spending their time like Don Quixote. I heard the music today of The Impossible Dream on the radio, and it reminded me of Don Quixote. Remember the guy that went around fencing with windmills? Well, even if you win, what have you achieved? Too many people chase rainbows and champion frivolous causes and make much ado about nothing. And it's quite possible to set up a series of goals that really will lead you nowhere. And we're going to try to avoid that kind of thinking. We simply don't want to become busy just to be busy, or to set goals that will take other goals to change at some future time. Why go down the road 150 miles only to discover that that's not where you want it to be, and then you have to set a goal to come back where you started and then move off in that direction? No, we're going to do it differently. An important requirement for reaching success in goal achieving is that these goals must fit your own values, your own standards, and your own desires. And these are the values, the standards, and the desires of your higher self, of your greater self. And they can be separated. These higher goals can be separated and will be separated from the goals that the lower personality self would tend to establish and to move off into. Now, in this next week, between now and our second class about goals, I want you to do what John Goddard did when he was 15 years of age. I would like you to take a legal pad, this size or longer, and make a list of all the things that you would like to do in your lifetime, the rest of your lifetime. Now, you don't have to go back and to the time that you were 15 years of age and make a list of those goals. For example, I never did want to be an Eagle Scout. I'm sorry, you Eagle Scouts, that just wasn't my cup of tea. I had other things to do that were not so Eagle Scoutish. Starting where you are, right where you are, I want you to make a list of all of the things that you would like to accomplish, to achieve, to be, and to have for the rest of your life. Write them down, write them down. Oh, you say, Jack, I won't be able to do them, so why write them down? And I say to you, you can't do them until you write them down. They will not become realistic until you write them down, until you see them there, and until they begin to form a pattern that fits your mind. They must come out of your mind, out of your higher self. Now write down all of the things that you would like to do, to be or to achieve or to have, including the silly and the very impractical things that come to your mind. As ridiculous or as impossible as they seem, write them down. Write them down. And we'll sort them out later. Remember a moment ago I said that we don't wish to move off into unrealistic goals? This week, don't worry about that. It's not your concern this week to be thinking about or wondering about what is realistic or unrealistic. Let your mind release itself. Let your creative imagination begin to flow. And keep your pad handy and write whatever comes to your mind that you would like to do, like to be, like to have. Jot it down. Even if it's embarrassing to you, especially if it is. We grow to the stature of our goals, and without a goal to keep us trying, our souls atrophy like unused muscles, Frank Laubach wrote. There's a story of a Persian prince who was born a hunchback, and on his 12th birthday, his father asked him what special gift he would like to receive this year. Always, upon his birthday, his father, who could afford anything, would give his son the request that his heart desired. And that small hunchback child bent over and misshapen, looked up at his father and said, I would like a statue of myself. And the father was immediately disturbed and wished that he had not asked. And he paused and said, son, isn't there something else that you would rather have? And the boy understood his father's pain and said, oh, Dad, I don't want a statue of myself as I now look. I want a statue that would look like me if I stood tall and straight like you. And I would like it placed outside the window in the garden where I can see it every day. And very painfully, his father granted the wish, and each day that misshapen young boy would go into the garden, and there in front of that statue he would stretch, and he would look up, and he would push himself, and with everything in him he would strive to reach up to be like that statue. Several times a day, every day for 8 years. On his 21st birthday, he stood with his shoulders erect and walked into that garden and looked that statue and then his father squarely in the eye. You see, he had become the image that he had created of himself. Now, he had done this through a progressive realization. He did not achieve this all in one moment. And he did not achieve it by forgetting his goal, but it became a supreme desire in his mind, something that he was willing to work on daily and regularly. And if you set such a goal, if you set your sights that high, I can assure you that this story will become a truth. Your life, perhaps not your body, but your life has been misshapen in some form, has it not? Your life has not been as erect and as tall, as magnificent as your spirit knows it can be. I know that this story is true because I have overcome more personal obstacles than that prince ever had to overcome to look into the eye of that statue. Perhaps you have too. You say, but Jack, how can I achieve my goals there? I've had so much adversity in my life. Adversity is good for you. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. And it will be a part of the process of achieving your goal. Overcoming adversity is the measure of your greatness. This is a friendly universe, and all of life is working to help you to move forward and upward. So nothing has been put in your path that you cannot overcome, that you cannot rise above. Nothing. And incidentally, as you begin to move forward into the achievement of your new goals through this progressive realization of them, I'm going to promise you that you will find obstacles in your path, more adversity. The moment that you set a goal, in that moment you are declaring that you will meet adversity, because there is a law that says for every action there's an equal and opposing reaction. And the greater your goal, the greater will be the adversity that will try to keep you from achieving your goal. Why do you think that hardly anyone upon this earth ever sets or achieves goals? Because they do not understand the law, and they have a dream and go out to experience it and immediately meet with resistance and they quit. Because they become so aware of the resistance, they lose sight of their dream, of their goal, and focus upon the resistance and give the resistance the power. Now, I will promise you something early. That if you will not let these new obstacles disturb you or deter you from your goal, then those obstacles that you meet, including the inner ones, the secret ones, the silent ones that occur in your own feeling, those obstacles will actually begin to work to your advantage, and you will find that the measure of your achievement will ultimately be increased proportional to the resistance that you encounter and overcome along the way. In other words, the greater the resistance, the greater your goal achievement will be. So, when adversity or resistance comes, welcome it. Oh, say thank you. Judge not by the appearances, judge righteous judgment. Resist not evil or the appearance thereof. Have you heard those things before? Well, now you're beginning to understand. You will meet with resistance, and the resistance is good, because within it will be found the seed for the achievement of your goal. Do you hear me? Good. Now, how does your mind work? I indicated to you a few moments ago that you need not be afraid of setting significant goals, because this does not mean that you're going to have to work longer hours or find an extra job to achieve your goal. Maxwell Maltz, in his great book Psycho-Cybernetics, in chapter number 2, Discovering the Success Mechanism Within You, talks about your built-in guidance system. And Dr. Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon, noticed that in a number of cases in which he had changed the facial or physical look of a person who had been seriously damaged in accidents or who had been born with disfiguring conditions. That although the appearance of the person changed, their experience did not change. And that the person continued to see themselves as they were before. If you see yourself as you were, no amount of outer changes in your body or in your life will be significant. It's only when we begin to work within our own minds. And so Dr. Maltz became a psychiatrist because he wanted to understand how the mind works. And some of the things that he discovered go beyond, far beyond, the field of psychiatry, and you can read them in his great book. He said that every living thing has a built-in guidance system or goal-striving mechanism that was put there by its creator to help it achieve its goal, which in broad terms is to live. And the simpler forms of life, the goal is to live, meaning to continue its physical survival. The survival of the species, not of the individual. But in man, the goal to live means more than mere survival. That while you have certain physical needs that must be met, you also have emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs which the lower animal kingdom does not have. And that you have within you a success mechanism that was put there by your creator that is guaranteed to work to help you accomplish, to achieve your goals at every level of your existence. But in man, this success mechanism is not automatic. It must be triggered by the consciousness of the individual himself. That's what man is, a conscious being who must come to understand the nature of his own mind and begin to work with the process that is already there. And to the person who begins to understand, the success mechanism can help him to get answers to any variety of problems that might come to him. The success mechanism can help him to invent things that have never been thought of before, to write, to create, to run a business, to explore new horizons in every conceivable possible way, to attain peace of mind, to actually change his own personality. In other words, to live a fuller life in every possible conception imaginable. In other words, you are more than an instinctive being. And although those instinctive success mechanisms are working in you, you have distinct possibilities beyond that lower level. That you have within you a creative imagination, that you can actually envision your future. You're not limited to the circumstances that have born you here or that exist at this moment. That you have a creative imagination that can envision conditions beyond any that you personally have lived. And you have a success mechanism that will take that image, that future that you envision in a now moment, and literally actually bring it to pass. And how does this work? It's fantastic. Your mind is so constituted that it is a goal-seeking mechanism. And that's why the word cybernetics was used in Maxwell Maltz's book. The word cybernetics comes from the Greek word which literally means the steersman. And you have within you a system that will actually steer you unerringly to the target that you established in the very same way that a missile or a torpedo seeks out and finds the target that is established for it. You know, a torpedo is given a goal. And it has a mechanism within it that works in the very same way that your mind works. The objective is to reach the goal. In other words, such machines know their target, and as they move toward that target, there's a kind of positive and negative feedback that comes to the controlling mechanism of the torpedo. If it's on its goal, if it's moving toward it, nothing happens. It continues to move toward it. But the moment that it deviates to the right or to the left, there's a negative feedback, and an adjustment is made to put the torpedo back on target toward its goal. The machine does not respond to positive feedback, but only to negative feedback. Now, your mind works in the very same way. And what this means is that a person who is unwilling to admit that they make mistakes can achieve their goal. Did you know that? If you establish a goal and then believe that everything that you do or think, that every action that you take is a great action. In other words, if you're one of the metaphysicians that stand around declaring divine order, regardless of what happens, there's no negative feedback. There's no adjustment. The moment that you make a mistake, you can at that point make a correction. And that can be the most exciting and rewarding minute that you have all day long. On this earth, it is impossible to go straight to something. And if you don't believe it, try to drive your car straight home. Have you ever heard someone say, I'm going to drive straight home? You can't drive straight to the third telephone pole. Watch yourself try to do it tonight. You will get there through a series of adjustments that you unconsciously now make. Now, if you're driving with someone else, you'll be aware of their adjustments. And if they're not making them quickly enough for you, you'll be thinking inside yourself, I hope he moves back to the left. Okay? Your mind is a goal-seeking mechanism that corrects as you begin to move forward through a progressive series of adjustments that you're making to reach your goal. It's the same way that a baby learns. Have you ever seen a young child in the high chair learning to reach for its rattle? And the first time it reaches, like if the rattle would be this switch right here on the lectern, it reaches and its arm goes off to the right. It gets negative feedback. The rattle is here. And it says, oh, and goes, to the left. And through a series of corrections, it finally gets the rattle after a period of time. And then immediately it forgets all of the wrong actions and only remembers the right one. Through a series of maneuvers, each time it makes a correct movement, it remembers that one. And through a series of successes, in a very short period of time, reaches and finds its rattle and anything else that it wants. And in time learns to fling its pablum across the room. You must set your goal and begin to move forward and correct yourself. And as you make your mistakes, forget them. Enjoy the moment because you're back on target. But you're not going to let anything, any adversity, or any mistake that you make, whether within your own consciousness or anything that happens to you in your life, to keep you from moving forward. You see this very same thing. I saw it in one of the football games that I watched on Sunday. The quarterback faded back for a pass. Now, in the huddle a moment ago, they had set a goal or a target. And the right end was supposed to pause for a moment, and then when the line action had taken place, he was to fade out into the center in the open space between the two defensive backs. And that particular spot was to receive the ball that the quarterback was going to fire in his direction. And that series of events happened. The quarterback moved back. He judged the speed of the tight end who began to move. He judged the distances between the defending backs, and all this was taking place in the computer of his mind. He didn't think these things. They just happened. And he threw the ball where the tight end was not. He had to anticipate, and he did. Now, the tight end slipped on the grass. There was a wet spot. And immediately his computer said, now that I have slipped, I must move faster, because there's been a momentary delay, And the defensive back on my right has seen what is happening, and he's moving forward more rapidly, and now I must make another adjustment. And he did so. But he completed the pass for a first down. And that goal was achieved. Now, that was a minor goal along the way. The objective, of course, was to score a touchdown, and the major goal was to win the game. And that's the way it is with you. And that's the way it is with your mind. And it works in exactly that same way. You have within you a computer, and you are the operator of that computer. There's an infinite storehouse of ideas, of knowledge, and of power. Everything that you need exists now. You are not limited to your own personal resources. You're not limited to the experiences that you've had in the past. You're not limited to the education that you have or did not have. None of these things can limit you except if you say they do. If you take into your computer the account that you're limited by these things, then by virtue of that computation in your computer, you're limited, but you're not limited. You're only limited by what you have believed and conceived in the past. But you're not limited by your mind, because your mind is locked into the supermind. Emerson said there is one mind common to all individual men. And he compared our individual minds to the inlets in an ocean of universal mind. There's a capacity for acquiring knowledge that transcends the sensory functions. And when you become a goal-setting and seeking mechanism, a very remarkable thing begins to happen. The universe responds to you beyond the initiatives, beyond the understanding, and beyond the capacity that you yourself have alone. Strange and exciting and wondrous things take place in the life of that person. You have within you the capacity to draw to you all of the things that you need. All of the events, the circumstances, the people, the conditions, everything that is necessary for the completion of your goal, you can experience. Do you believe that? Do you have a feeling for that? Are you willing to accept that as being true? I know that this is true. An old priest said to the prophet, "Speak to us of religion." And he said, "Have I spoken this day of aught else? Is not religion all deeds and all reflection? Who can separate his faith from his actions or his belief from his occupations? Your daily life is your temple and your religion. And whenever you enter into this day, take with you your all. Take the plow and the forge and the mallet and the lute, the things you have fashioned in necessity or for delight. For in reverie you cannot rise above your achievements nor fall lower than your failures. You are destined. You are destined, absolutely destined, to make your demonstration. And your demonstrations are really the sum total of what you believe about yourself and life. What you do is your religion. And you cannot do more than the goals that you establish and move into.
This concludes the lesson on Side A. Now, please fast forward to the end and turn the cassette over for the continuation of The Science of Goal Achieving.